Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another vlog, and as usual, I'm going to have the same structure with this vlog as I have had with others. Gonna show you some more titles that I added to my collection of home media fairly recently, as well as my thoughts on some movie trailers and some upcoming releases on Blu-ray and 4K. But before I get around to doing that, I want to check in on all of you and ask you how you're doing. I hope you're doing well. If you're dealing with some things right now, all I gotta say is to quote the film The Crow, it can't rain all the time. Keep that in mind, and I have faith that you will push on through and you'll make it, and you will see brighter days. Now, also, before I get around to showing some more titles that I have decided to add to my collection, I want to give you a little bit of an update on what I have planned going forward for the rest of the month. The next review is going to be of another film by Alex de Iglesia called Perdita Durango with Rosie Perez and Javier Bardem. And after that, I will be reviewing a film called Funny Games, not the remake, the original one from the late 90s. And then I will return to the Halloween franchise. I will be doing a review on the 2018 film. I know a lot of you have been wanting to hear my thoughts on that, so that is definitely going to be happening sometime in the near future, as well as my thoughts on Halloween Kills. And I will also be doing another review of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. When it comes to other horror franchises, I plan on covering the Candyman film sometime this month, as well as the Poltergeist trilogy, because one of my requests is to do a video on the E! True Hollywood Story documentary, The Curse of Poltergeist. So I felt that that was a perfect time to revisit the Poltergeist trilogy, and I will be doing that as well this month. I also plan on reviewing some other random horror films, some movies that I've actually seen a long time ago, but I haven't sat down and recorded a review yet for, like The Entity or Tales from the Hood 3. I also am planning on doing a review of Tales from the Crypt Season 5. Already watched the season, just need to record the review. And if I have time, I plan on tackling season 2 of Creepshow, maybe season 3 if it's already uh, aired in terms of each episode by the end of October, and some other random horror films. I am curious about Malignant, so that might be one of them as well. So that's what I have planned for this month. There are a couple other requests that I will get around to that might be a little random in terms of the genre. So if those do pop up, that's the only reason why they are being uploaded in October, the month of horror, is because they are paid requests. And for those of you who have sent me paid requests in the past, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope you enjoyed the reviews. For those of you who are still waiting, uh, they are on their way. And yeah, I hope you enjoy what I have in store for you this month. Now we get to the portion of the video where I talk about and show you new additions to my collection. I'm going to start with some DVDs, and then we'll go from there. I also have one other thing I want to show you, but I'll wait to show that after the DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks. So let's start out with a film called Folks with Roger Moore and Anthony Perkins. This is a film that I've heard about, I've never seen though, and it looked like it might be interesting, and I picked it up recently. Uh, Looked like it might be a fun film. And I also picked up this on DVD from Hamilton Book, The Clovitch Killer. Mainly because I actually heard some good things about it, had an interesting looking trailer, and a good cast. I mean, Dylan McDermott, Charlie Plummer, Samantha Mathis. The rest of these titles on DVD are all ones that I got from my local record shop. Traded in some titles I didn't want anymore and got some in-store credit. And I got most of these with the in-store credit, but some of them I did wind up paying out of my own pocket. But ultimately didn't pay too much for them. And the first one is Reform School Girls. This is a cult classic for a lot of people. This recently did get a Blu-ray overseas, but I'm fine with the DVD because it's an Anchor Bay release and they are really good. I mean, I'm still surprised by how good Anchor Bay's DVDs are in terms of picture quality. And the next one is Modern Problems with Chevy Chase. This is a film I've been trying to track down for years, but the price is never right. Um, and this is a film that I'm shocked is so forgotten about. I mean, you've got a really talented cast. I mean, you've got Chevy Chase, you've got Brian Doyle Murray, you've got Nell Carter, you've got Dabney Coleman, and this plot is something that just screams cult classic. Chevy Chase plays a high-strung air traffic controller who winds up getting splashed by a truck full of toxic waste that makes him glow green. And then he discovers that this sludge has given him the power of telekinesis. Like, this shit is insane. And it's a movie that nobody talks about. I can't even think of a single review of this movie out the top of my head. So maybe it's because you can't find it anywhere. The DVD has been out of print for years. I don't know. But yeah, it's a crazy concept. So, Modern Problems with Chevy Chase. I also got The Return of Captain Invincible. Now, this is a film I saw years ago on VHS. I wasn't that impressed with it, but I've been kind of curious. I've been on it, not kind of. I have been relatively curious about revisiting this because it's something I saw so many years ago and I didn't really have a lot of appreciation for a lot of things. So, with the DVD here, though, not only can I see it in better quality, but there's also some other aspects of it that might be fun. I think it, yeah, it includes a new remixed Dolby Digital soundtrack, which is better than the VHS, and you also have the theatrical trailer. Now, this is a film that is relatively obscure. You've got Alan Arkin, who plays a out of shape retired superhero who has to get taken out of retirement in order to stop his arch nemesis, who is starting to cause a lot of trouble once again. His arch nemesis is actually played by Christopher Lee, and it's directed by Philippe Mora, who you might know as a director of such films like Communion. And it's a really crazy mix of different genres. It's a comedy, it's a fantasy, it's a musical, it's an action adventure. And it features songs by Richard O'Brien from Rocky Horror Picture Show fame. Now, this film is also the movie that features a clip that still cracks me up with this character. I think he's like a general or something, or he's some kind of, it might be the president actually. And it's a song about bullshit. And so the guy's just going, bullshit. Bull, 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 bull. Shit, 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 shit. Bullshit. And it's got this weird wacky music in the background. It's a hilarious sequence, and I've always remembered that scene. So it's one of those films where I do want to check it out now because maybe I might like it more because I might actually get what it's trying to go for. I also got The Witch Who Came from the Sea, Subversive Cinema release. This is a movie that was actually shot by Dean Cundy, and for many years it was just on some really shitty looking VHS transfer that wasn't even the right aspect ratio until Subversive Cinema came out with this release. Then we also have the Gumball Rally. This looked like a lot of fun. This looked like a fun throwback car racing movie, kind of like Cannibal Run. And this one features some really early performances by actors such as Gary Busey and Raul Julia. So the Gumball Rally, uh, we have Mountain of the Cannibal God, another Anchor Bay release that looks pretty good. Got a Full Moon film, Head of the Family. This looks like some lost sequel to Nothing But Trouble. I mean, look at this guy. He looks like he's related to the judge from that movie. Head of the Family. Picked up this film because it looked kind of interesting, and for the cast, Sean Patrick Flanery, Billy Drago. Also, the fact that, yeah, it's it's produced by Stephen J. Cannell, who worked on Silk Stockings as well as other popular TV shows. Here we have the 25th anniversary special edition of Galaxina. This is the film that starred Dorothy Stratton, an actress and Playboy model who was murdered. You also have Stephen Mocht in it. Never seen the film, but I've been curious about it. So I picked up the DVD. And here we have Gunhead, Gun Unit Heavy Elimination Device, a Japanese sci-fi action movie that features some live action mechs. And it's a film I've been trying to see and track down for a long, long time. And it's been out of print for years. It's been pretty expensive. And this actually wasn't cheap. But glad to still have it in my collection. I've been curious about the film ever since I saw it on VHS. At least saw the cover art on VHS at a local Hollywood video when I was a kid. And then the last DVD is a really rare, limited collector's edition of Future Kill. Now, this film is not that great, and I would never have paid as much as this was going for if I wasn't using in-store credit. So, this is the only reason why I have the film, is because I was able to use in-store credit to get it. And I'm happy to have it for the collection, for my 80s horror collection. And I'm curious to hear the commentary with the director and the star, Edwin Neal. And this is a pretty cool looking release from Subversive Cinema in terms of the cover art. So that's a plus. The film itself, though, is not really that great. And the transfer, I mean, for a low budget movie, it's not the best in the world, but it's still better than the VHS, which I still have, by the way, because it's a fun collector's item. And I have some Blu-rays as well, but I'm just going to show these two 4Ks before I get to those. We have Love and Monsters. Heard some good things about this one, so I decided to pick it up. Yeah, it's got a good rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That doesn't always mean that it's a good movie, though. But I do like Dylan O'Brien. I've honestly always felt that he would have been a really good Spider-Man. But I do feel if they don't want to ultimately cast him in that role sometime in the future, which probably would never happen because Tom Holland is really secured in that role. I hope he gets considered to be Batman Beyond because he would be perfect. I think Dylan O'Brien would be a perfect casting choice to play Terry McGinnis. So you got Love and Monsters, and speaking of monsters, got one of the biggest monsters of them all, Godzilla. Yes, I remember this being a goddamn disappointment, but I didn't see this in the theater. And the only version of this that I saw, I think, is the version that came out on home video. And according to all the reviews and everything, that was a shitty transfer. That was a transfer that was darker and murkier and really difficult to see in terms of the visuals compared to the actual theatrical version of the film. So this is a lot closer to actually how it was supposed to be seen. So and I have King of Monsters, so I figured why not for the 4K collection. I'll give it another watch sometime and see if I might at least find it to be okay. I doubt it, but we'll see. This is also a 4K, but doesn't have a case. But I will explain to you soon enough that it actually does have a case, but it's kind of it's a little complicated. So this is actually a Redbox purchase of Chaos Walking, the 4K release. The reason why I bought it from Redbox is because it was cheap. It was $4.99 for a 4K disc. Like that's a steal. For those of you who are on a budget, for those of you who don't want to pay a lot for 4K discs or Blu-rays in general, check out Redbox. You can get some good deals on them. You're not going to have cover art, so you're going to have to make your own or find a case with the cover art cheap somewhere, like at a pawn shop or a thrift store. But uh, if you're fine with waiting or you're fine with just having the disc itself, give Redbox a shot because I mean it's $4.99 for a 4K disc. It's hard to beat that. And at the pawn shop today, I found the Blu-ray of Chaos Walking. So now I can just take the DVD out and put the 4K in there, and I have the film with an actual case. So I'm pretty happy with that. I know I've heard the film isn't that great, but I've been really curious about this movie. The concept is interesting, and on top of that, it's a movie that's been in development hell for years, and it's a film that has been held back from a release for years. So it's a movie that was shot and finished and completed, and it was supposed to have a release date, and then it was pushed back. It's just one of those movies that just has all these crazy stories about what happened and all these different things that happen behind the scenes, and I'm really fascinated with those kind of films because yes, it could be a disaster, but it could at least be an interesting disaster. Then we have the next film I'm going to review, Perdita Durango. This is yeah, the Severin release of the Alex de la Iglesia film, and the reason why I got this for super cheap, fairly cheap from Amazon. It was like what 17, 18 bucks is because of the damage on the slipcover. But I don't really care. I care more about the disc itself than the slipcover, and it was in really good shape. Then we have the Blu-rays, mix of different things. We have Tarzan, The Legend of Tarzan in 3D. I didn't get this because I have a 3D player, but I do have a 3D player, but I don't have a 3D TV. Uh, that 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 trend went away really quickly, didn't it? Like that was a blink and you miss it kind of trend with 3D for Blu-rays and so on. Like I wonder why that didn't pan out. And you don't see a lot of 3D movies in theaters anymore either. So, The Legend of Tarzan, because I only had the DVD and it was cheap. Ninja Assassin, because I'm curious about this. I worked in a movie theater at the time when this came out, so I remember seeing some scenes from it, but I never saw the movie. And Sho Kosugi, he's in it, so I'm curious to see his role. I also picked up Gone in 60 Seconds. I didn't pay $5.99. That's an old buyback sticker. Also got a fairly new release, a disaster film, Greenland with Gerard Butler. And this I only got because I am admittedly a completionist. There are times where I'm like, you know what? This movie sucks. I don't like it, but I want to have an entire collection of a series of films. And this was one of those times. I had all the other films in the MCU except for this, so the price was good enough. So I have Captain Marvel now. This film sucks. It's a piece of shit. It's boring. I would say it's arguably the worst film in the MCU that I've seen. Yeah, it is. It's the worst film in the MCU for me. But for the collection, sure. Uh, one of these days, I do want to revisit the MCU, and I probably will give that another watch just to see if it, is as bad as I remember it being. I'm pretty sure it is, but I probably won't do another video on it, but I probably will watch it just to see if I missed anything when it comes to how it connects with the rest of the MCU or the current phase that it's a part of. Um, well, not really current, more like the phase that it's a part of. But anyway, here we have some more Blu-rays, some Scream Factory releases. The Brain. Been curious about that one. Looked like it might be kind of a trippy, fun movie. Uh, has a new 2K remaster. Has some interviews with some of the actors as well. Uh, Urban Legend, the collector's edition, because I only had this on DVD. Then I also picked up Urban Legends Final Cut, the sequel. Speaking of sequels, got this because I heard some really wild things about this movie. I heard this film is like one of the craziest, wildest, most insane movies ever made. I mean, if you just look at the synopsis, if you just watch the trailer, if you just see reviews of this movie, you'll see what I mean. Freeway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby. I mean, even the title is crazy. Uh, yeah, I had to see this. I love these kind of crazy, wild, weird movies. So when someone was describing that to me, I was like, holy shit, like that's a must see for me. Where's the Blu-ray? Um, what's interesting is there is no Blu-ray of Freeway, the first film, with Kiefer Sutherland and I think Reese Witherspoon. And I'm like, why is there no Blu-ray of the first movie? There's some cover art online. I think there was supposed to be released from Lionsgate, but then something happened and it never got released, and it was only released on DVD. Then we have another film from Code Red, Breeders. Only got it because it was actually it was a good deal to get it from Hamilton Book. Also got Primal Scream for the collection. Got a couple more Kino Lorber Blu-rays. I have more Kino Lorber Blu-rays on the way because I did take part in their Rocktober sale, but it'll be a bit until those come in, as well as some releases from Ronin, which I did get a couple from them. I got uh, Cut and Run, and I'm trying to think of the other one. So I got Cut and Run, I got Legend, which is the Arrow Video release, because for some reason Ronin was actually shipping out copies of that. I think it's just Legend and Cut and Run. But I think there might be another one, but it's not coming to me. But it is a Ronin release. Um, but these are Kino Lorber releases. The Ground Star Conspiracy with George Papard. Then I also got another George Papard movie from the 70s, Newman's Law. And picked up True Romance. I know this recently got a release from Arrow Video. I've never seen the film. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I think I saw bits and pieces of it on cable, but I actually haven't seen the film yet. And I'm a big fan of Tony Scott, as well as the actors and actresses that are in this cast, and didn't want to spend over $30 on a blind buy. So picked this up brand new at a grocery store of all places. And the last two titles are Mirror Mirror from Code Red, and one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and one that I'm super happy to have in my hands. One that I will probably definitely have to say is a contender for the best release of the year. Kolchak, The Night Stalker, the complete series from Kino Lorber. I mean, just the slipcover alone is just gorgeous. And speaking of gorgeous, the transfers on each episode are terrific. This is the best the show has ever looked or sounded, and there's a lot of care and appreciation and detail put into the entire release. I even love the booklet here that uses the X-Files font and a little take on the X-Files tagline, because the X-Files was really inspired by this series. The creator, Chris Carter, was a big fan of Kolchak, the Night Stalker. And if you're a fan of this show, this is the definitive release. You should absolutely pick this up. It's well worth the money. But anyway, that's it for the DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks. Got one last thing. Like I said, there was one other thing I was going to show, and that is a book. This was a gift from a longtime friend of mine named Chris, and this is a book that I actually did buy a while back from Amazon Canada, but it got lost in shipping and I never got it. He, out of the blue, said if I was still looking for a copy, and I was like, yeah, of course I am. And he said, well, I found one. I bought it, and I want to send it to you. And so he sent it to me as a gift, and I'm very appreciative of that. And honestly, it was a little humbling to be perfectly honest. And the book is Outrageous Conduct: Art, Ego, and the Twilight Zone Case by Stephen Farber and Mark Green. This is a expose on the Twilight Zone trial and what was going on the set of the Twilight Zone movie when it comes to the tragedy involving the deaths of Vic Morrow, a couple kid extras, as well as a helicopter pilot. I think there might have been one other person that might have died. I'm not entirely sure. But so if I'm not accurate, feel free to let me know. But this is a infamous case. There was a trial. John Landis was up for being charged with manslaughter, and I remember seeing snippets of this book on Twitter, and I've heard about the book in the past, but I remember seeing some snippets of the book on Twitter and some of the stuff that was shown. I was like, oh my God, like, wow, this is insane. And it really made me want to track the book down and read it, but the book is out of print. It's hard to find. John Landis and his lawyers don't want people to know about it because it really does not hold back when it comes to John Landis and his arrogance and other things about John. It does not pull any punches. And so John and his lawyers do not want people to read this. They do not want people to know about a lot of this stuff because it really does not paint a very pretty picture of him. And yes, some of it might be rumors and so on and whatever, but I think there's probably a lot of truth to it. And I've always wanted to read it for myself just to make my own conclusions. Because a lot of the other books on this case, there's another one called Special Effects, it's nowhere near as searing. Like, it kind of takes a little bit of a lighter approach to things, which is understandable because you don't want to get John Landis and his lawyers on your ass, because at the time of that book's release, he was still kind of a well-known name in Hollywood. Um, but yeah, this is a book I'm looking forward to reading, except I know it will piss me off, but I'm still looking forward to it. And one of these days, I actually would like to talk about it in a video. I'm not going to go super in depth because I don't want John Landis and his lawyers to bite my head off. So yeah, one of these days I definitely would like to talk about this book because it's something that I'm really passionate about, because it's a case that's always stuck with me ever since I first heard about it and first read about it. I was like, this is insane. Like, how did he get away with this? And how is this just an innocent case of accidental manslaughter? I mean, it is accidental manslaughter. But, like, how is it not a case where he was convicted? How did he get off? Because it was all him. Yeah, there were other people under him that were making decisions and so on. But this is the leader of the set. This is the director. This is John Landis, who carries a certain weight when it comes to his words. If he said that he wanted to do things a certain way, they were going to get done that way. So he was the one that was really in control. I mean, all you need to know is that Steven Spielberg, who was a very close friend of his at the time, completely separated himself from John after what happened. So that's all you really need to know when it comes to how guilty he really is and really was when it comes to what happened on the set of the Twilight Zone. So now let's talk about some trailers, shall we? The first one I'm going to talk about is Home Sweet Home Alone. Oh, wow. I feel like I just had a paint can thrown in my face. Like, what the fuck was that? First off, the tagline is horribly insulting, and I do not understand how it even got past the drawing board. I mean, how in the hell did Disney, a company that is well known for trying to be as PC or trying to be as safe as they possibly can when it comes to their marketing, how the hell did they allow a tagline like this? Is just astonishing. Like, how the fuck did that happen? Holiday classics were meant to be broken. What? That's your tagline for your lazy, half-assed, cheap, shitty remake of a beloved holiday classic? That's just trolling fans of the original Home Alone. It's basically telling them, fuck you, we're remaking it and there's nothing you can do about it and you and your kids are gonna watch it anyway, so sit down and shut up. What the fuck, Disney? Holiday classics were meant to be broken. Come on. And then, if that isn't bad enough, I mean, the trailer itself talks about how bad it is. Because there's a moment where one of the robbers says, like, this isn't going to end well. That's true. It's not going to end well with Home Sweet Home Alone. It's the same beats as the original, just like all of the other shitty sequels that nobody asked for. This time around, though, it's even more of a shameless copy of the original film. At least 3, 4, and 5. Excuse me, sorry, I just got indigestion thinking about the trailer. It makes me want to throw up. But anyway, with all of the other sequels, at least they were sequels. At least they were trying to somewhat be their own film. As shitty as they were, this is a straight up remake. And the only difference is the kid who's playing Kevin, he's fat and he's British. Wow. Oh, and his mom is also British too. And you've got Pete Holmes in this. I'm like, Pete Holmes, man. I was one of the few people that actually watched your show on TBS. You're stuck doing this shit? Ah, it's just depressing and sad. You've got the actor Devin Rattay, who played Buzz in the first two films. He's in this as a cop for some lazy fan service. And like from the trailer alone, it doesn't look funny. It looks cheap, and it looks like they just did not put that much effort into this at all because they felt like it's Home Alone. No matter what we do, kids and their families around the holidays are still going to stream this shit. And the selling attraction of the Home Alone films, other than Macaulay Culkin in the first two, was the slapstick. And the slapstick had a certain edge to it. It had a certain wild, cartoonish bit of violence to the slapstick. Even though it was cartoonish, it still had a bite to it. All the scenes in this trailer are completely weak. There's no bite to them. There's no edge. So one of the funniest things about the series is completely lost here, because you know it's not going to be as brutal as some of the scenes are in the first two, because it's Disney. You know for a fact that's not going to happen. So yeah, toothless, pointless fucking remake, just awful and insulting. Um, there is a new documentary that's going to come out. I want to mention this when it comes to Disney Plus because this is a positive. Peter Jackson is directing this. It's a multi-part documentary about the Beatles. It's a collection and an edit of hours and hours and hours of footage that was recorded decades ago that was intended to be a part of a TV show or a documentary, but then it never really got finished or completed. And as a fan of the Beatles, that was really special. It was a really magical trailer to see, and I will definitely probably see that series sometime because it's never before seen footage of the Beatles together, and yeah, it looks like a really potentially solid, if not great, um, documentary series. I'm not really a super big fan of musicals, but I decided to check out the trailer for Tick Tick Boom because I'm a huge fan of Andrew Garfield. I think he's an incredibly underrated actor, and the music in that trailer legitimately gave me chills, and Andrew Garfield's performance looked absolutely mesmerizing. So it's a film that I will probably see one of these days, even though I'm not a big fan of musicals. It's a biopic of the guy who created Rent, the musical, and it definitely looks like it has some promise. Um, there's some drama that's coming out from A24. It's called Red Rocket. It's gonna be getting a lot of good reviews. A lot of people talking about how great it is. How Simon Rex, the actor from such hits like Scary Movie 5, is sensational in the film. And I saw the trailer and I'm like, Simon Rex is sensational my ass. He looks like he's completely out of his depth here. The character is supposed to be goofy, supposed to be a loser, but the way that Simon Rex portrays this character comes across as a farce. He comes across as a completely inauthentic character. He doesn't seem like he's real, and that's one of the problems I've always had with Simon Rex. And it works in something like the Scary Movie franchise because it's a fictional kind of thing. This is supposed to be some sort of grounded in reality, taking place in Florida kind of movie, and I just don't buy it. Sensational performance, my fucking ass. From what I saw in the trailer, he was awful. So I don't know what critics are smoking when it comes to the trailer for Red Rocket or for the film Red Rocket to begin with. There's another paranormal activity movie coming out called Next of Kin. Why are we doing more of these movies? It's coming out in October, like later this year, uh, later this month. Of course, later this year. Sorry, my brain just had some moments where my brain cells committed harakiri because of fucking another paranormal activity movie. I can't even fucking say it. It's so lame. And the trailer, it just looked like a generic horror movie, another generic found footage horror film with jump scares that are predictable as fuck. And the only difference here is that it takes place in some Amish community, but they're not really Amish. Oh, great. Just ruin the entire twist, why don't you? I mean, I love how the trailer, like, that's probably one of the biggest things that's supposed to be a surprise in the film, and the trailer just gives it away. But yeah, they're not really Amish. There's some cult or whatever, and there's a demon. And it just seems like it's not even really something that needs to be a part of the Paranormal Activity franchise. It just seems like a completely different kind of movie that they just slapped the Paranormal Activity name on just to give it some extra recognition. Then you have Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I've never played the game, so I can't talk about its authenticity to the game. But I will say this, it does look more promising than the Paul Wild Stallion Anderson movies because from what I've seen from playthroughs, from what I've heard from fans, this is closer to the tone of the games. That being said, there are some casting issues. Like, why can we not get Leon right? From what I've been seeing when it comes to Leon, they just keep fucking it up. Or Jill. And then on top of that, this film looks cheap. This film looks like a cheap jack horseshit direct-to-video movie. And it's coming out in theaters? Really? Only in theaters. Yeah, this film is gonna bomb. A lot of the fans are already not into it because of the casting and other issues. And now the trailer comes out, and you got CGI that looks like shit. You've got a lot of production values that look really, really fucking cheap. I mean, you got CGI that looks worse than the video games. And yeah, some fan films kind of look the same. But the problem is, a big budget entry in a franchise should never look like a fan film. And when that happens, you've got a problem. So it might be good, I don't know, but it just looked bad. It looked cheap. Speaking of a film that looks bad, The 355. Wow. It's a new movie starring Jessica Chastain and a few other actresses. I think the actor who played Bucky, he's in this as well. I think the film was supposed to come out sometime last year, and then they pushed it. This looks like a completely forgettable action movie. The 355, more like the generic. That's really all, and that's the most painfully generic looking action film when it comes to a trailer that I've seen in a long time. Not ever seen, but definitely in a long time. I mean, this was really bad. Everything has been there, done that. The action looked tired and lethargic. Yeah, that looked really awful. Scream. First off, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. I am sick and fucking tired of these sequels that are just the same title as the first film. I don't care if it's done that way because it's trying to parody or satire or provide a satire of horror reboot sequels. I don't give a shit. Stop calling these new entries Halloween or Scream or Candyman. If it's a sequel, just fucking put a sequel number on it. What's the problem? Scream 4 was still called Scream 4. Why can't you just call Scream 5 Scream 5? Why does it have to be called Scream? Why did Candyman 4 need to be called Candyman? Why did you have to have Halloween from 2018 called Halloween? That made it the third film in the franchise that was called Halloween. I mean, Halloween Kills isn't called Halloween 2 again, so why the fuck is it just called Halloween? And I've heard the logic. Because it gets more eyes on the film. More people go to see it based on the fact that it's the same title as the first. Bullshit. I don't buy that data at all. Where are they getting that from? The audiences that made those films successes would have still made those films successful if they were called something else. Stop doing this. It's confusing. It's stupid. I don't know of anyone who's a fan of these franchises who's like, yay! It's called Scream again. That's exactly what I wanted. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. And I know a lot of friends who are into horror films. I can't think of anyone who's like, yeah, I love this trend. Most of them are like, this is fucking annoying and stupid. Can we stop doing this? Whose idea is this? Can we get them to understand that we want them to stop? And here's the problem. If the film's a hit, they're just going to keep doing it because they seem to think that it works. Nobody wants this. Stop doing it. And speaking of stop doing things, stop resurrecting these dead franchises. I was not impressed with the trailer for Scream 5. Oh, it's going to satirize horror reboots and sequels. Didn't Scream 4 already do that? So why are we doing this again? Oh, well, you're beloved characters that come back again. Whoop-de-fucking-do! If I want to see those beloved characters, I'll just watch Scream 1 through 3 again. Why the fuck do I need to see another film in the franchise, which is just as generic as any other fucking slasher, but the only difference is, oh, we have our iconic characters that we love, and now they're old. And there's new characters that are new teenagers who seem to be really fucking annoying or dead weight. Great. Even the kills from the trailer look like nothing special. Nothing special. Scream, nothing special. That's really what the trailer did for me. It was nothing special to me at all. If you're looking forward to a cool teach their own, I have no problem with that. But I'm tired of this. Create your own fucking franchises. Stop resurrecting these dead franchises for lazy fucking sequels and reboots. I'm sorry, my standards are higher. I'm not one of those people. It's like, oh my god, another Scream. I'm gonna cream. No, that's not the kind of person I am. Uh, and who knows? It might be good. If it is, I will be the first to admit it. But it just didn't impress me at all from the trailer. It was nothing special. I was more interested by the black phone. The black phone looked interesting. Mainly because of the idea and the fact that Ethan Hawke is playing a creepy child kidnapper murderer. That's a very different kind of role for him. And from what I saw in the trailer, it looked like he pulled it off. Except for the scenes where he's wearing masks. Why does he have to be wearing those masks? It's silly and stupid, and it's just made me. It's laughable, really. Why does he have to wear the masks? Just don't have him wear masks, like a kabuki mask or some shit. Why are we doing this? What is this, Three Ninjas? But anyway, yeah, he's wearing these masks. But the main thing that really is the attraction for me with that film, that really made me curious about it, is the idea of the phone. How there are these kids who died, who were kidnapped by this killer, and their spirits are communicating to this other kid who was recently kidnapped through the phone. And they're telling him like how he can escape and what happened to them and so on. And they're leaving behind clues and things for him to maybe use to try to get out of the situation that he's in. And I think it's a really cool idea. Really legitimately unique as far as I know. And I'm curious about it. I will definitely give that a shot sometime. More interested in that than Scream 5. Then we have some Netflix stuff. There's a Norwegian film. I think it's called The Trip. That actually looked like it might be fun. Like a crazy, wild movie where there's this couple that are really struggling with their relationship. Things are falling apart. And there's an instance where things go really sour, where the husband kidnaps the wife and is trying to, I guess, beat her up or take her out or do something to try to get her to come back or whatever. It's pretty fucked up. But then the tables are turned and they get essentially kidnapped by these group of killers and these home invaders, and then they have to try to find a way to coexist and survive. And I like the trailer because it just looked like a crazy, wild, violent movie. It definitely did look like a trip. And it's a movie that I'll definitely keep an eye on. Another one I want to mention is, in terms of Netflix, The Harder They Fall, which is a Western that's coming out in November. It's got Idris Elba and a bunch of other actors and actresses. And it looked like a fun Western. It honestly reminded me of Young Guns, and I think that's a good thing. In a lot of ways, it's not kind of, it is a throwback to a blaxploitation film. So it's like a blaxploitation Young Guns. And I'm all for that. It looks like it might be fun. Uh, and it definitely looks like a movie that has a lot of style when it comes to the direction. Um, when it comes to anything else in terms of Netflix, I don't think there's really any other films that I really want to talk about in terms of the trailers. Um, there is one clip, YouTube clip, that I do want to share some thoughts on real quick. The 5 minute short film, really, because that's really what it is. It's a short film. Robin, starring Jamie Costa. Oh my God. What a amazing tribute to Robin Williams. Uh, Jamie Costa is a man who's always had an immense amount of compassion and love for Robin, and he also does a really incredible impression of him. And he did this 5 minute short clip of what he hopes to be a film based on Robin's life. And you just need to go and watch it. It's gone viral, rightfully so, and the performance is just stunning. It left me speechless. It made me cry because Jamie Costa did such an amazing job embodying Robin Williams, his spirit, and everything. Not just the mannerisms, not just the voice, everything. It was like Robin Williams was alive, and it was just such a really powerful and compelling uh, clip to watch, and it was just a really great performance. And if they do make a Robin Williams biopic, which I think they should, I mean, these studios should definitely consider doing it, or a miniseries or something, because of how quickly this clip went viral. If they are going to do it, he has to play Robin. Do not cast anyone else. Jamie Costa has to be Robin Williams in this biopic because he's just born to play that role. It means so much to him. And you know that if he did it, he would just completely knock it out of the park because he channeled Robin in this. He wasn't just doing an impression you would see on SNL. No, this was channeling Robin Williams in a way that was purely uncanny. And yeah, just brilliant, brilliant performance by Jamie Costa. Um, so if you're a fan of Robin Williams, you definitely need to check that clip out. I'll probably have it in the video description. But now we get to the part of the video where I talk about some upcoming Blu-ray and 4K releases. Now, Vinegar Syndrome, they're releasing something called New York Ninja, which it's had a crazy story. There was this low-budget ninja exploitation movie that was made in the 80s sometime, and it was finished, but there was no audio, and it was just left to essentially rot in a canister for years. Some people got a hold of it, and then Vinegar Syndrome helped fund a restoration and a edit of the film, and they got a bunch of genre actors to dub it. You've got like Dawn the Dragon Wilson, you've got Linnea Quigley, Cynthia Rothrock, which I find just really crazy. And I'm curious about the film just to see how everything turns out. I saw the trailer. It doesn't really look like it would be that great of a movie, but it looked like it might be at least fun to watch at least once, just for the absurdity of it all. I know that there's a 4K release coming out soon of The Outsiders. If you're a big fan of that film, keep an eye out on that. The Howling is getting a new 40th anniversary limited edition box set from Studio Canal. I'm okay with the release that I currently have. I don't really need that, but if you're a fan of that, that's coming out. There is some legitimate new news about The Kindred, the release of the creature feature from the 80s by the Obro brothers from Synapse. It's something I've been waiting. Actually, I don't think it's Obro brothers. It's Carpenter and Obro. Sorry, my bad. But anyway, it's a film that I have been wanting to see get a official release on DVD and Blu-ray for decades. Because I remember when Synapse first announced it for a DVD release in the 2000s. And then they had some rights issues, and then it never came out. And then I remember hearing about the Blu-ray a few years ago, and they had a lot of issues. COVID happened, it delayed things even further. But now Synapse is starting to really get the ball rolling, and they're talking about a pre-order being dropped in the near future. And I will be pre-ordering that day one, even if it's expensive and pricey, which it probably will be, because I legitimately really like that film, warts and all. Uh, Moonbeam Entertainment, the kids version of Full Moon, they are releasing a couple titles for the first time on Blu-ray. Remote, which is a fun Home Alone ripoff, and Dragon World, which is a movie that I've been wanting to see get a DVD release ever since I saw the film on cable when I was a kid. Uh, so those are two releases that I definitely would like to pick up in the future. Um, MVD's doing a late 80s film called Ghost Riders. Blue Underground's coming out with a 4K of the Toolbox Murders, the original. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really. Well, I know Vinegar Syndrome just announced that they are going to be releasing Ticks in 4K. So there's a 4K Blu-ray coming out of Ticks in October this month, which I'm definitely going to get one of these days. Probably when I get my next paycheck. That's one that I really was surprised that it was ultimately released, because I thought it was just gonna be on an out of print all of films Blu-ray and DVD, because it was not really that well known of a creature feature. But then Vinegar Syndrome was able to get the rights, and now it's got a 4K and it's loaded with new features. Yeah, I'm pretty psyched about that, because that's one of my favorite creature features is Ticks. That's one of the first horror films I ever saw. I still remember seeing parts of it on cable on the Sci-Fi Channel. I know I mentioned Creepshow Season 2 already. That is going to get a Blu-ray release. I was wondering when that was going to happen, because they released Season 1. So that'll be pretty cool. Um, I think that's really about it. I can't really think of anything else in terms of like a major release that I want to mention. I will mention this real quick, because I did read this. Oh yeah, there's a couple here. Like, My Stepmother's an Alien is getting a collector's edition from Arrow Video. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Uh, and speaking of weird sci-fi, Shout Factory's releasing the complete series of Jimmy Neutron. So if you grew up watching that show on Nickelodeon, you can finally get your hands on the complete series. So they're releasing that sometime this year as well. I know there's probably some of you that remember that show and were fans of it, and so here's your opportunity to own the show on physical media. I do remember watching that show quite a bit on Nickelodeon when I was a kid. Uh, I did try to revisit it a couple years ago, and I don't remember it holding up that well. It's similar to something like Rugrats or Cat Dog, so I don't think either of those kind of really they didn't really hold up that well. Some of the Nicktoons though still hold up. For instance, Rocko's Modern Life. I think that still holds up really well. Or the Angry Beavers. Um, and speaking of Nick, I have been revisiting some classic Nickelodeon stuff, because I decided to order and pay for Paramount Plus, and I've been watching a fair amount of Guts. I don't know if you remember that show, Nickelodeon Guts. It was a competition show where kids were competing in these sport events, and it would all culminate in this uh, battle where, well, not really battle. Well, it kind of is a battle, because they were battling against this massive mountain, and they're trying to be the first to climb up it, uh, the aggro crag, in order to win. And it's a fun trip down memory lane. Some of the stuff doesn't hold up that well. For instance, the host is a little annoying and really corny, And there are some episodes where you're just like, we're just doing the same games. But then again, it's like season one, so they're still trying to work the kinks out. But it's still fun to revisit that show. Uh, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say except thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.